Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we make sense of the corporate world with a wink and a nod. You know, some companies tell you what they're doing in these filings, and some companies, well, they're a little more subtle, like a magician showing you a card trick that ends up being a rabbit out of a hat. Today we're looking at Microbot Medical Inc., and get ready because they are pulling some interesting financial rabbits out of their hat. So what's the big story here? Microbot Medical just announced they've been busy exercising a lot of stock options, which is a fancy way of saying people who had the right to buy their stock at a certain price decided to go ahead and buy it. This means they raised a good chunk of money, but it also means a lot more of their stock is now out there in the world. We're looking at their report dated August 27, 2025, and it tells us a pretty clear story about their recent financial activities. This is all about Microbot Medical Inc., a name that sounds pretty high-tech. They're incorporated in Delaware and their file number is 000019871. Their main operations are based out of Hingham, Massachusetts. The most important thing you need to know is that their common stock is traded on the Nasdaq Capital Market under the ticker symbol MBOT. That's important because it means this is a publicly traded company we can all keep an eye on. Now, let's jump into the meat of this filing, the part that explains what really happened financially. This section specifically talks about unregistered sales of equity securities, which might sound complicated, but it's really just a way of saying they issued new stock to a select group of people. So what happened is between August 26th and August 27th of 2025, Microbot Medical issued over 4 million shares of their common stock. This didn't happen out of thin air though. It happened because people who had options to buy the stock decided to use those options. Think of options like coupons that let you buy something at a fixed price. In this case, there were Series H and Series I preferred investment options. The people holding these options exercised them at prices of 2.20 and 2.30 per share. And boom, the company got a significant cash injection. We're talking about approximately $8.6 million in gross proceeds. That's the money they brought in before paying any fees or expenses to the people who helped facilitate this deal. For a company like Microbot Medical, raising $8.6 million is a pretty big deal. It means they got the capital they needed to fund their operations or perhaps move forward with new projects. Now, let's look at the bigger picture of their stock. As of the end of August 2025, the total number of shares of common stock available and being traded was around 52.6 million. This means that the 4 million shares they just issued represent a significant increase to the total number of shares out there, a little over 8% increase in one day. That's a fairly substantial dilution for existing shareholders if no new value is created immediately. How do they do this without a big public announcement or a complicated process? They used an exemption under the Securities Act of 1933, specifically Section 4, AE2. This basically means these were private transactions, not a broad public sale. This is a common way for companies to raise capital without the extensive regulatory hurdles of a public offering. It's also important to note that the shares they issued from the Series H options were pre-registered for resale. This means that the people who bought these shares have an easier time selling than later on the open market. Similarly, the shares from the Series AI options were also registered for the holders to resell. This is good for those option holders because it makes their investment more liquid, but it also means there could be more selling pressure on the stock anytime these holders decide to sell. The rest of the filing primarily deals with exhibits and formalities. It lists their exhibits. The main exhibit they are pointing out here is the cover page interactive data file, which is embedded within the document itself. This is standard for SEC filings nowadays to make the data more accessible. And then we move to the signatures. This signifies the official approval of the report by the company's leadership. We see the signature of Harold Gadot, and he holds the top positions: CEO, President, and Chairman of the Board. That tells us the company's leadership is directly signing off on this important filing. The date of the signature, and thus the official filing, is August 27, 2025. So what's my take on all of this? Microbot Medical has successfully raised a significant amount of capital through the exercise of stock options. This is a positive sign that investors believe in the company enough to convert their options into cash for the company. The influx of $8.6 million can provide a much needed boost for their operations or research and development, giving them more runway to achieve their goals. However, we also need to consider the dilution. With over 4 million new shares entering the market, the ownership stake of existing shareholders is slightly reduced. If the company doesn't use this capital to generate substantial growth or profits quickly, the stock price could face downward pressure. The fact that these shares are registered for resale on Form S3 also means there's potential for increased selling activity in the near future. Looking at their position, the key for Microbot Medical will be how effectively they deploy this new capital. Are they investing in groundbreaking technology? Are they expanding their market reach? Or are they expanding their market reach? Or are they simply shoring up their balance sheet? The market will be watching closely. The company's direction hinges on translating this infusion of cash into tangible progress and shareholder value. It's a classic case of needing more fuel for the rocket. If they're truly aiming for the stars, the market will reward them if they execute on their promises. Otherwise, this capital raise might just be a temporary fix. Alright, that's our breakdown of Microbot Medical Inc.'s latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Do you think this capital raise is a game changer or just a short-term boost? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps us out, and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate finance. Don't forget to check out our Discord server linked in the description for more discussions and insights. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Corporate Decoder.